I would like to just welcome you because this is the very first edition of our coffee house. Yeah, that's that's right, our virtual coffee house. So I see you've got your coffee cup. I got my
Yes,
coffee cup. So cheers, and thanks for being the first participant to do it.
no problem. My pleasure.
Excellent. So can we do kind of a little bit of an introduction? I mean, I think you've had a very long, impressive military career. So could you just tell me a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, my name is Colonel Retired Tony Sarver. I spent 30 years in the Army, most of it overseas. I was looking at my DD-214 the other day, and it had 17 years overseas.
Wow.
So I spent time in Korea, Germany, Iraq, Turkey, Tunisia, Haiti, Bosnia, Canada. I think that's about all of the foreign places I was posted. I was the U.S. Forces Korea Education Officer. And in that role, I was primarily acting as a liaison between U.S. Forces Korea and the DOD schools, working with principals of the different schools throughout Dodia in Korea and with the superintendent.
I know also from looking at your resume, you thought about becoming a teacher way before that too. So did that like rekindle maybe that desire, or yeah, how would you describe how that came about?
Well, it did. In fact, back in the 80s, I got a degree in music education. But I decided I didn't want to teach music all my life. But as I gained experience throughout the Army and I was posted all over the world, I started to realize that that is something I wanted to do, was to teach. Because I found that I was able to look at current events in a new way based on my experiences, especially my time when I was working for the political advisor in Sarajevo in Bosnia.
Oh yeah.
Because I learned a lot just from watching what was going on and watching how the news was not an unbiased reflection of what was really going on.
One of the things that you mentioned in your email when we were getting ready to set up this meeting was you've been surprised by how much work goes into planning and teaching 3 classes. So can you
Right.
tell me a little bit about the things that are surprising about that?
Well, maybe one of the things that makes it even more difficult is that the school where I'm teaching at is an international baccalaureate school. That makes it, and so there's certain rules that need to be followed. And the planning is pretty intense. Each unit requires a specific plan.
Hmm.
So that's each unit, and the unit is no specified length of classes. Each one could be different. One of them could be 3 months long. Another one could be 3 weeks long. It's just about what the topic is. For
Hmm.
example, in the U.S. history class, one unit was just on the American Revolution, and that took about a month. But in my ancient world history class, one unit encompassed ancient Egypt, ancient China, the Indus River Valley civilization, and Mesopotamia, and that took about 2 months.
Hmm.
But to put that together requires a teacher to figure out what is going to go into the lesson plans for the next couple of months and about how long it's going to take to teach each thing. And that takes quite a lot of thought. Plus then actually putting together the daily lesson plans.
I wonder if some of your experience prior to coming into the teaching field helped you kind of come up with some different types of assignments and that sort of thing. Do you feel like that you would take a different route possibly than another teacher?
That's possible. I mean, I've only been doing it for a couple months now, and I do try to bring in my experience as much as I can. The other day I was talking a little bit about, it was December 7th, talked to the students about Pearl Harbor. I talked to them a lot about my experiences in these living in these different countries. Um, but on the other hand, I'm partnered up with another teacher, and so we are sharing the lesson plans.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with a teacher who has, I think you described it to me when we last checked in, and she has been teaching these classes, and so you've come in to work with her. Can you talk about what it's like to work with a teacher who has, more teaching experience?
Well, I think it's a great experience. I mean, I'm learning a lot doing this way. It's kind of having a mentor,
Hmm.
and yet I'm also able to help her. So we both teach ancient civilizations or ancient world history and geography. And so basically what we've done is I've taken over the planning for geography and she's handling the ancient world history.
Hmm.
And we share them with each other. We meet, we consult once a week to go over the upcoming week's plan and the lesson plans and the different activities we were going to do. And we review them and toss ideas back and forth and then put them in. And we, both of us send our plans into the directorate head. So I think it's great. I'm learning a lot this way.
So I would like to talk about one other success, and this is again because I know a little bit about the process and how you went through it. You got a really good score on the praxis. Can you talk about, I guess, just how you were able to do that?
Well, for one thing is I've got a master's degree in international relations, and the praxis that I took covered all of those same general areas that I would focus on in international relations. And it's areas I enjoy and I enjoy reading about. I mean, it was history, geography, civics, economics, a little bit of psychology. Now, studying for it was a challenge. It's kind of like studying to appear on Jeopardy because I mean, it's a little bit of everything. It's also like studying for the Foreign Service exam for the State Department. They pretty much have the same topics that they want their State Department officers to have. So what I did is I got their study guide. I read through all of that, just made sure that I knew that material front and back. And when I was doing it, the praxis is multiple choice. So I made sure that I understood every concept on all of the practice tests that they had in there, even the wrong answers. So for example, if there was a question on there about the Louisiana Purchase, and one of the wrong answers had something to do with the Battle of Gallipoli, what I would do is I would make sure that I understood about as much as possible about the Louisiana Purchase, but I would also go and check out what was the Battle of Gallipoli.
Hmm.
So it kind of doubled or tripled the amount of information that I came into the test session. And I found the test session to be not that difficult, and yet I scored pretty high in comparison to most people.
That sounds a little bit like your systematic approach to substitute teaching. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, after I stopped working as a consultant and making about 3 times as much money, I was I became a substitute teacher for Fairfax County, and which the process itself is really pretty easy. I mean, just as long as you're not a criminal, you can get put on the list to be a substitute teacher, and that really helped me practice different methods of classroom management. Because I mean, all of us probably know that when you've got a substitute teacher, that's the time for the kids to act up,
Yeah.
test their limits, see what they can get away with. And so I figured if I could master classroom management as a one-time substitute teacher, then as a full-time teacher, it should be a lot easier. But I also I wanted to maximize my experiences because at the time I wasn't really sure what grade I was going to focus on. And so I just opened it up completely so that I would be available to teach any grade, any subject. I mean, within reason. I wouldn't be signing up to teach advanced calculus.
Right.
That would not go over real well.
Yeah.
But most of the other things I was substitute teaching for. I mean, I even did kindergartners, seniors, middle schoolers, 5th and 6th graders, which probably the toughest was like the 1st graders, in my opinion. That is a difficult age group to keep control of. But I was getting a call every day. Since it was almost all of Fairfax County, there wasn't a day when that if I wanted to work, I didn't have the opportunity to.
And I think you said that you never worked in the same school twice, or
Right. Right.
So that is really impressive, and I think you said that helped you narrow down kind of the areas, right?
Right, it did. One of the other things that it helped me with is it gave me a deep appreciation of what it's like to teach special needs children.
Mm-hmm.
That is a real challenge, and it's I can see why people teaching those children need extra education, because it requires a great deal of patience, and each child it's got to have an individualized approach.
Right, and I can say, because we have looked at the numbers for Virginia from the Department of Education, that is in the top 2 most in-demand careers, and it's the only one challenging the throne right now is math. So between those two, there's a shortage in Virginia, and there's a shortage in the entire country, which reflects exactly your observation.
Well, and I also I can back that up. I went to a Fairfax County job interview, and that was what they were looking for. So I wasn't the only history or social studies position that I could find. They said, "Well, are you certified in special education?" I was like, "Well, no." And apparently it's about a 2-year program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the kind of thing that I would be able to just sign up for and start teaching.
So I would like to hear a little bit about what you think the future looks like for you. And we could be talking about, the rest of this year, because I know that you've got big plans, for next semester. But then also just down the road and that sort of thing. Now that you're in the school, what do you think the future looks like?
Well, right now I am waiting for my provisional license to come through.
Mm-hmm.
The school has submitted all of the paperwork that's necessary. All I'm missing from having a regular license is a certificate of completion for, what is it? Internet-based teaching class, which they teach at one of the community colleges around here. So I have signed up for that course and will be starting that in January. It's a requirement by the Virginia Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So without that, I should be able to get my provisional license. So my first goal is to get my provisional license, complete that course, and then apply for my regular license at the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I plan to probably stay at this school until my daughter graduates from high school. She's in 9th grade right now.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I may consider applying for a position in Fairfax County Public Schools, or what's more likely, go back overseas, which is where I spent the majority of my military career.
Oh, wow.
And teach for the DODS schools, Department of Defense dependent schools in another country, basically teaching the family members of military personnel, or even in an English-speaking international school, which most countries have some of these.
So I would like to hear a little bit about what you think the future looks like for you. And we could be talking about, the rest of this year, because I know that you've got big plans, for next semester. But then also just down the road and that sort of thing. Now that you're in the school, what do you think the future looks like?
Well, right now, I am waiting for my provisional license to come through.
Hmm.
The school has submitted all of the paperwork that's necessary. All I'm missing from having a regular license is a certificate of completion for, what is it? It's internet-based teaching
Mm.
class, which they teach at one of the community colleges around here. So I have signed up for that course and will be starting that in January. It's a requirement by the Virginia Department of Education.
Hmm.
So without that, I should be able to get my provisional license. So my first goal is to get my provisional license, complete that course, and then apply for my regular license at the end of the school year.
Hmm.
After that, I plan to probably stay at this school until my daughter graduates from high school. She's in ninth grade right now.
Hmm.
After that, I may consider applying for a position in Fairfax County Public Schools, or what's more likely, go back overseas, which is where I spent the majority of my military career,
Oh, wow.
and teach for the DOD schools, Department of Defense dependent schools in another country, basically teaching the family members of military personnel, or even in an English-speaking international school, which most countries have some of these.
Oh, wow. What about those are calling to you?
Either the DoDEA or the Department of Defense schools or the international schools in another country.
Either
But
one.
both of those pretty much equally.
And so what about them are you thinking about?
What am I thinking about them?
Right, yeah. So why those? Because it seems like that would be a big step, moving back across the ocean, and all that stuff.
Well,
Um,
I enjoy living overseas, and I would like to have the opportunity to go back overseas and live in another country and be teaching the kids.
wow. So that's almost like a physical expression of that international relations.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And I've already, my military career gave me the opportunity to go for promotions and move up and the chain of command. But this time around, I'm more into the experience itself rather than just constantly looking for the next rank, the next grade. So the one thing I'm not trying to do right now is to try to become the principal of a school and then maybe the superintendent and that's I mean maybe that's the kind of thing I would want to do in the future, but at this point I just want to be a teacher and maybe just teach in different places, go teach in a one foreign country for a couple of years and then go to another foreign country and get some experience from there. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at doing.
Can you talk about the feeling that you're getting from teaching that makes that feel like a really full experience? That because you have said you've put aside some of the ambitious planning because this is rewarding. It seems like it's rewarding.
It is. This is to me this is rewarding. I mean, I made it to the rank of colonel in the army, but now I want to do something else. I'd rather have some intrinsic rewards rather than just the outward rewards of getting uh, promoted to a new rank each time. And towards the end of my career, and one thing with most military officers, toward the end of the career, they end up sitting behind a desk and a computer for their last few years. Just about any position you're in. Some of the most senior ones get around and get to talk to troops a lot, but the times as a commander is few and far between. Most of the time is spent as a staff officer, which means working for a senior officer on a staff and behind the desk on the computer. And teaching is different. I mean, there is some time, I do have to spend some significant time preparing lessons and unit plans, but the most rewarding time is when I'm standing in front of a class. Yesterday, I got a call from my former boss when I was working as a consultant. And he was asking me if I'd be willing to come back and saying that, you'll be making 3 times as much money if you come back and work for me. I was like, well, thank you very much, but I'm really enjoying this a lot better. And I've got the freedom to do that because I'm retired from the Army. So I'm getting my pension, which is paying most of the bills. So I've got this extra freedom, but I do enjoy teaching.
I just want to make sure if there's any advice that you have for a new participant, a new Troops to Teachers participant, maybe even just somebody who's a veteran who is thinking about coming to the teaching career. Is there anything about the process that you would tell them if they were sitting right here?
Well, if they're still active duty, probably the most important part is to start working on getting some sort of an education degree. Because I had an advantage in that I started this with an education degree. It was in music education. So the process was a lot quicker than it probably would be. If someone finishes the military and then starts looking into it, the process is going to be a lot longer. And it takes a long time to get all of those courses completed. So reaching out and finding out what is going to take the longest and then start working on those while still in the military, I think that would be the best thing. But from the Troops to Teachers program itself, I would, to me, the most difficult part was actually getting hired. The way I got hired for this particular job was through a social gathering where my wife just mentioned to someone that was there that I had applied at this particular school. And that woman just happened to say, well, I'm the HR director for that school. If you send me his resume, we can set up an interview. And so that's how that came about. Because I found that in the civilian world, as opposed to military, that having someone from the inside that knows you is 95% of the fight. And just having a good resume just isn't going to do it with all the competition out there. But I would recommend that anyone going through this program to start off by being a substitute teacher. Just go to the local school district and do what it takes to become a substitute teacher to start building on those skills. And if nothing, and it for someone that it doesn't look like they're going to be hired as a regular teacher anytime soon, that may be a way into a school to limit the number of schools. I was just trying to I had already had my education degree, so I wasn't looking to get known by the principal of a particular school. But somebody that was trying to get known by a particular school would be trying to substitute almost exclusively for that school or maybe a couple of schools they were targeting to start, over time gaining that reputation, so that then you have the person on the inside, the local principal, that when a job opens up, you're a known quantity.
I want to just say thanks again for being the very first virtual coffee house participant. All right, let's say cheers to that. Thanks again, Tony, and good luck with the next semester. I'm looking forward to our next check-in.
Okay, no problem. I am too.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye-bye.